HashiCorp TA-003-P exam practice questions with explanations are available in the video for you to study. Before running any other Terraform command in a newly created working directory, which action must be completed to prepare the environment? A. Execute Terraform refresh to sync the state. B. Run Terraform init to set up the working directory. C. Use Terraform validate to scan for configuration issues. D. Perform Terraform plan to preview upcoming changes. The answer is B. Terraform requires an initialization step so that it can download providers, detect backend settings, and configure local directories for dependency management. Without initialization, Terraform cannot interpret provider references or module sources, which leads to immediate errors. Running Terraform init ensures that all required plugins are present and correctly matched to version constraints. It also configures remote backends if specified. Because of this, initialization is always the first mandatory step before planning or applying changes. A team member created several cloud instances manually, and you need to determine which instance Terraform currently manages. What is the most reliable method to identify the managed instance? A. List all resources with Terraform state list and inspect each using Terraform state show. B. Add outputs for every instance ID and run a new plan. C. Recreate all instances with forced replacement. D. Use Terraform apply to rebuild the state. The answer is A. Terraform's state file stores metadata about each managed resource, including provider-assigned identifiers. Using Terraform state list reveals all resources Terraform tracks, and Terraform state show allows inspection of individual IDs. This method directly correlates Terraform's state entries to actual cloud instances. It avoids destructive actions and does not modify infrastructure. Therefore, it provides the safest and most precise means of identifying which resource Terraform currently controls. During a Terraform cloud run, at which stage does Sentinel evaluate policy rules to determine whether the operation may proceed? A. Before any planning occurs. B. During dependency checks. C. After a plan is generated but before apply executes. D. After the apply phase finishes. The answer is C. Sentinel policies are designed to examine the planned changes without modifying infrastructure. Terraform Cloud generates the execution plan first, which Sentinel then evaluates to ensure all organizational controls are met. This timing allows policy checks to block unsafe deployments before they occur. Sentinel never runs after infrastructure changes are applied because that would not prevent violations. Thus, enforcement always happens between the planning and apply phases. To bring existing cloud resources under Terraform management, what must be prepared before using the Terraform import command? A. Nothing Terraform generates resource code automatically. B. A matching resource block in the Terraform configuration. C. A refreshed state file. D. A remote backend configured. The answer is B. Terraform import only maps an already existing object into the Terraform state. It does not create configuration files. Because of this, a resource block must already exist in code so Terraform knows which resource type and arguments the import refers to. Without corresponding configuration, Terraform cannot associate the external resource with a logical Terraform address. This ensures long-term manageability, as imported objects must align with defined configuration. Therefore, authoring the configuration precedes any import operation. You deployed a virtual machine but forgot to define any output values. What is the quickest way to retrieve its public IP using Terraform? A. Rebuild the VM and check the apply output. B. Use Terraform output. C. Inspect attributes via Terraform state list and Terraform state show. D. Reference the state using a new Terraform _remote state block. The answer is C. Terraform records all resource attributes in the state file, even when outputs are not declared. By listing resources in the state and showing their details, you can access attributes such as public IP addresses. This method does not require modifying configuration or redeploying infrastructure. It leverages Terraform's existing metadata, which reflects the latest known values. This makes it the most efficient and non-invasive approach. When is the most appropriate moment to run Terraform Validate during the development process? A. After applying changes to confirm infrastructure correctness. B. Before planning to ensure configuration syntax is valid. C. After a plan is generated to check state accuracy. D. Before importing resources into Terraform. The answer is B. Validation checks the syntactic correctness and internal consistency of Terraform configuration files. It ensures that the code is structurally sound before proceeding to planning, which depends on valid syntax to produce a correct execution plan. Running validation early prevents wasted time caused by malformed configuration. It does not inspect provider credentials or perform state comparisons. Therefore, validation logically fits before the planning phase. If a provider version constraint is changed in configuration, when does Terraform update the lock file to reflect the new version? A. Only after a successful apply. B. The next time you run Terraform init. C. When the state file refreshes. D. Immediately after editing the configuration. The answer is B. Terraform's lock file records exact provider versions to support consistent and reproducible runs. Whenever constraints change, Terraform requires a fresh initialization to reconcile versions, potentially downloading new ones that meet updated rules. Only during initialization does Terraform regenerate the lock file. This behavior ensures versioning changes are explicit and deliberate. As a result, changing configuration alone does not modify the lock file. What primary function does state locking provide during Terraform operations? A. Encrypts sensitive fields in the state file. B. Prevents multiple concurrent operations from modifying the state. C. Speeds up plan execution. D. Stores historical versions of state. The answer is B. State locking is a safety mechanism designed to protect the integrity of the state file. Since Terraform relies heavily on accurate state to determine actions, Simultaneous modifications could cause corruption or conflicting changes. Locking ensures only one operation such as plan, refresh, or apply can write to the state at any given moment. It does not encrypt data or version the state but instead safeguards transactional consistency. This is essential in collaborative environments. Which of the following is not a valid built-in Terraform variable type? A. List. B. Map. C. Object. D. Array. The answer is D. Terraform uses specific collection and structural types, including list, map, set, tuple, and object. The term array is not part of Terraform's type system and is not accepted as a variable type. Lists and tuples provide ordered sequences, while maps and objects provide key-value structures. Terraform enforces these types to ensure predictable typing behavior across configurations. Therefore, array is not recognized as a valid type. To make a value from a child module visible in the root module's CLI output, what must be done? A. Declare the output only in the root module. B. Declare the output only in the child module. C. Define matching output blocks in both the root and child modules. D. Enable auto-expose in the module settings. The answer is C. Child modules cannot expose values unless they define outputs within their own configuration. However, outputs from child modules do not automatically appear in root outputs. They must be redeclared at the root level to relay the values upward. This two-step approach allows root modules to selectively forward or filter child module outputs. It also ensures encapsulation and predictable module boundaries. Thus, both definition points are required for visibility in CLI output.